What do you think of the moment you hear about the Abraham Accords? Jews and Arab Muslims coming together? Peace in the Middle East? A huge diplomatic victory for the US? Or Trump making the impossible possible? Well, wrong. Jen Psaki disagrees. Jen banishes you from the League of Middle East Experts. In fact, Jen knows that the Abraham Accords were a failure. We might need to check what's in our cigarettes. Hi, and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Shubhangi, and in this video, I shall use plain facts to destroy this Biden administration representative's views on the Trump-brokered Abraham Accords. Let's begin. White House press secretary has made the most outlandish comments you would have heard in a long time. Jen Psaki has claimed that the Trump-brokered Abraham Accords between Israel and the Arab world were dead on arrival. So the peace agreements between two of Washington's main Middle East allies, which even the far-left Democrats could not criticize at the time of their signing, are being described as useless. Facts and statistics, however, demolish what Psaki has said. The material issue is not Psaki's bleak understanding of international affairs and the Middle East, but that she represents Joe Biden's views. What Psaki says reflects what Biden thinks, and her quote-unquote dead on arrival remark means that Biden will not go further with the Abraham Accords. So, countries like Saudi Arabia and Lebanon, which were likely to sign future Abraham Accords, wouldn't be nudged to do so. Also, Biden could continue the policy of cold ties with Israel. This is what the White House press secretary actually said. Aside from putting forward a peace proposal that was dead on arrival, we don't think they did anything constructive really to bring an end to the long-standing conflict in the Middle East. The context of Jen Psaki's remarks were not clear, but she did refer categorically to the Israel-Palestine conflict. So it is quite convenient for the Biden administration, you see. It couldn't stop the ongoing Israel-Gaza conflict, so it can simply put the blame on Trump-brokered Abraham Accords. But were the Abraham Accords really dead on arrival, as Jen Psaki would want you to believe? Well, not really. Trump's peace agreements between Israel and the Arab world continue to shine even though Trump is not in power and the Israel-Gaza conflict is escalating. The UAE, which was the first to sign this Abraham Accord with Israel, for example, has warned Hamas to stop its hostile actions against Israel, or else its planned investments in Gaza Strip may not move forward. If the Arab world does not approve of Palestine's violent ways today, it is only because of Trump's Abraham Accords. In fact, there has been an extremely significant change in Arab-Israeli ties ever since the Abraham Accords were signed. In October last year, the UAE and Israel agreed upon 28 weekly flights between Tel Aviv and Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Unlimited charter flights also ply on this route. Biden administration has to be extremely myopic not to notice how the Abraham Accords are working and also establishing peace in the Middle East. The UAE is investing extensively in the Israeli economy, and Israel is investing heavily in the Emirati economy. In March, Abu Dhabi announced a $10 billion fund for investments in several strategic Israeli sectors like energy manufacturing, water, space, healthcare, and agri-tech. Last year, Israeli firms too had announced investments worth $500 million in key UAE sectors, and this was right after the peace accord. And the Abraham Accords were not merely transactional either. A country like Saudi Arabia, which did not sign a peace agreement with Israel but lent indirect support to other Arab nations, too hosted Israelis during the Dakar Rally, an annual car racing event. Apart from this, the UAE is in fact tackling anti-Semitism, and the country is even showing tolerance for Jewish synagogues. Similarly, Saudi Arabia is removing anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism from textbooks in the country. All this is happening only because of the Abraham Accords, which were brokered by Trump. The Biden administration wants you to believe that the Abraham Accords are not working, but Israel has been in talks with the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain to form a four-nation defense alliance. Trump's Abraham Accords are literally enabling the Arabs and the Jews to form a military alliance against Iran. You see, before Trump, Even the Democrats wanted to broker the Abraham Accords, but they failed. John Kerry, the US Secretary of State in the Obama administration, had declared that there would be no separate peace between Israel and the Arab world without resolving the Palestine conflict. He thought that it was impossible. Well, Trump made it possible. Biden has failed in Middle East diplomacy, and therefore the White House press secretary is discrediting Trump-brokered Abraham Accords for controlling political damage to the Democrats. Yet the Abraham Accords shine and continue to speak for themselves, as well as Trump's diplomatic abilities.